Welcome, everyone, to the Senior to Seniors podcast. I'm Jim Mazziotti, and today I've got a special guest. And let me just give you a little bit of an introduction to my guest today. His name is Ben Hummel. I want to start with a quote that maybe will help us get into the discussion and the conversation that we're going to have today. There comes a point in life when fixing what's broken is no longer enough. We begin asking deeper questions about who we are, what we're here to express, and what still wants to come through us. And I'm hoping Ben will help us get there. My guest today spent decades exploring those questions, from spiritual practice and creative expression to entrepreneurship, psychotherapy, and ultimately purpose itself. Ben Hummel is a licensed psychotherapist, author, spiritual teacher, speaker, and the creator of The Genius Way, a life skill system built around an ancient idea that every person is born with a unique guiding force, what the Greeks called a genius, meant to shape how we live, create, serve, and contribute. Ben's journey includes more than 30 years of spiritual counseling, a profound midlife unraveling, and a rediscovery of meaning that shaped how he works with anxiety, grief, creativity, relationships, and major life transitions. His work now focuses not just on healing wounds, but on helping people uncover their sacred individuality, reclaim their gifts, and move from achievement towards significance. For our senior to seniors listening, those navigating retirement, reinvention, loss, legacy, or simply wondering, what is this season really for? I think this conversation may feel both grounding and quietly provocative. Ben, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you.
Oh, nice to be here. Thanks.
So I loved your book, and let me just hold it up here so people can see the cover, so they can find it in their favorite bookstore, order it from Amazon or their favorite online book supplier. Very interesting book, and as I told Ben before we started, maybe a little bit deep for me. But it's very provocative and an excellent book. So, Ben, I'd like to start by asking you, how did you come to write this book, The Genius Way?
Mhm. So, this particular book, this is my second book. The first book I wrote is called Summoning Genius,
Mhm.
and that literally is about a guide through midlife and what to do with, how to move through midlife, bringing out your existential expressive qualities. So, in another way, to use your genius, which is not about intellect, but the gifts and callings that you were born with. And so this last book, The Genius Way, is basically it's the Genius Way philosophy that kind of sets up why this is important. And it's also a workbook that goes through a process that helps you get in touch with your creative callings and your expressive self as a way to connect to your life purpose.
Yeah,
And so it's actually a method
yeah,
to do that. And so this is it's like a natural progression of my career through, spirituality, going into psychology, and then coming out at okay, life purpose.
yeah.
That's kind of ultimately what everyone is heading towards.
Yeah.
So,
And especially seniors,
mhm,
we get to this point, and one of the things I'm finding, there's a couple things that I found when I entered, the realm of being a senior, but one is there's a lot of loneliness
mhm,
being a senior. But there's also this thing where I found so many people around me where I live have lost the sense of purpose. And not, maybe they didn't know their sense of purpose. Maybe they didn't know their genius,
mhm,
so to speak,
right.
to begin with. But so many people seem to be searching, for their genius, and it
Yeah.
seems, and their purpose. And it seems your book takes us through that in basically 10 steps as I read your book,
Yeah.
in 10 steps and um, 10 interesting steps. Can you talk about how you came up with each step by step?
Mhm. Yeah. So sometimes when I'm working with someone in psychotherapy with a client, um, there are different ways to evoke or bring up either unconscious material or something that somebody knows on a deeper level that they don't know they know about themselves and their situation, right?
Yeah.
For this one, the 10 steps were bringing out material from what I call the prima conscious. So this is like a new concept that I came up with for the purpose of explaining this.
Okay.
So, in a nutshell, the prima conscious is an area of your consciousness that contains all of your special gifts, callings, talents, your leanings. It, unlike the unconscious, which everybody kind of knows about, I guess, you've heard about the unconscious, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
The unconscious takes in things that were maybe too difficult for us to experience, and we kind of shove it down there. We can suppress things in it, and sometimes the unconscious kind of erupts, and we do crazy things, or stuff comes out that we didn't really intend for it to come out. Unlike the unconscious, the prima conscious is only, it goes in one direction. It doesn't take anything in. It's just for expression. So think about it this way. It's like we're born with a trunk full of qualities and expressions and things that are unique to us to express in our lifetime. Okay. If you get to a point where you haven't expressed those things, there's a certain feeling of dissatisfaction or
Hmm.
emptiness that can is only about I haven't expressed what I have within me, right? So these 10 steps are meant to access that part of our awareness to bring out information that we then can use in our life to express ourselves in a fulfilling way.
Yeah, and so it's really a structure, a roadmap, a workbook, so to speak, that helps take you through those things. And it started right away with I think the first question that you ask. I mean, from the very beginning, it's thought provoking. It makes you work. It
Yeah,
makes you think and dig deep. But
right.
in your book, you distinguish between psychology and what you call the existential core of a person. And I know for seniors who have already done a lot of emotional work, how do they recognize when the issue is no longer healing but direction? Does that make any sense to you?
Oh yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
So, let me first say to any seniors that are watching this, as long as you're here and you can fog a mirror,
Hmm.
there's something for you to express that's unique to you. It doesn't stop at the arbitrary idea of retirement, right? As long as
Yeah.
we're here, there's something important that only you can express. And it doesn't have to be curing cancer. It could be your relationship with your cat. It could be anything, but it's unique to you,
Yeah.
right? And that's kind of like a purpose aspect of our lives, right? And so um, the question is about, how do we go from healing to existential expression? How do we go from healing to continuing to develop our expressive self? Healing is great and it's important and it's necessary. There's nothing wrong with healing. But think about it this way. I have two concepts here. One of them is um, there are two drives. There are two things that motivate us to act. Okay. One of them is the wound drive. The drive is like a pent up bunch of emotions and energy that makes us act, makes it's a drive to act. The other one is the genius drive. The genius drive is different than the wound drive because the wound drive wants us to heal something. Okay. We have a
Mm-hmm.
trauma as a kid, we have a
Mm-hmm.
breakup, we have a loss, medical thing, and something's disturbed in the natural way we live, and we want to go back to homeostasis. We want to go back to where it was okay again,
Yeah.
right? And that's great. It's great work. But since we all have this genius within us, this expressive self that was meant to say something in particular with our lives, unless that is said, which comes to the expressive part, we're still going to feel the sense of dissatisfaction, and especially, you're talking about loneliness and you know uh, life purpose in older age. That becomes particularly important, that subject, right? So once the wounds are all healed, there still remains this sense of dissatisfaction. I've seen this time and time again with people that have worked with depression, anxiety, grief. You know, that's healing is one thing. There's another part that's about what have I come here to express, and have I expressed it yet
Mm-hmm.
enough?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's a journey that I, take most of my clients on as I work with them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 And I could I could identify it with that throughout your book for sure. Um, One of the things that I was wondering is that many older adults quietly wrestle with the loss of roles. Okay,
yeah,
the loss of their career, the loss
yeah,
of parenting their children, even physical ability. I mean, I live in a retirement community
mhm,
of mostly people in their 60s, a lot in their 70s, and those in their 80s. So you can see the loss of
yeah,
physical ability, and
yeah,
as we were talking, even relevance.
yes,
They think they've lost their
right,
relevance.
right.
So how does the Genius Way help someone rebuild identity without trying to relive the past?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So in my life experience, I have, you know, instead of rebuilding identity, I've had many different identities as they've gone along. I just turned 68, and so that's a whole new chapter for me. And so um, the past identities that we've created, they're only supposed to last for a little while, right? And there's a tendency to think that when you're over 65 or something, that okay, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
But no, even with the limited mobility, even with, whatever limitations come with aging, we're still here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's nothing to compare about to the past. The question becomes, what can I offer now? And at midlife, a lot of people will do a career change and so forth. A lot of people who are over 65, they might not be doing a career change, but all of the things that they didn't express earlier on, because of the earlier careers and identifications and identities, they get to do that now, even if it's in a more limited way,
Mm-hmm.
right? They get to explore their curiosities, and it's all about kind of creativity of like, even with my perceived limitations, how can I still try to express my curiosities from earlier on that I didn't get to?
And it's a real opportunity. I mean,
It is.
it is such an opportunity, and I think so many seniors think that, well, here I am, I'm sitting all alone, and
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
lost it all. But
Right.
they, and I think restlessness is something that
Yeah.
seniors really feel.
So think
Um,
about that.
yeah,
Think
and
about that.
it just gets louder. It seems
Yeah.
like it gets louder.
So what do you think that restlessness is about?
Maybe not knowing their genius, maybe not knowing.
Well, it's still having something to express,
Yeah,
but not knowing where to put it.
yeah.
Okay. And so for anybody in that position, I would say, what have you postponed expressing or doing, right? And again, even if you're more limited in range of motion or whatever it is, you can still get there in some way. Like, yeah, you might not jump out of a plane, but there are a lot of ways to express the same thing. So it goes back to what was I curious about that I never did? I mean, it's kind of endless.
And your book helps people do that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It starts at the beginning.
Yeah.
As I understood it, it
Yeah.
takes you to the beginning, and
Right.
it asks you what things hurt you, what things weren't you able to express, and it kind of hurt, uh,
Hmm.
honestly.
Yeah.
Digging deep.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you can write in your book. Made available in your book places to write
Mhm.
and put that. I was even fearful to write down those things because I thought, I don't know that I want anybody to really see those things if they grab this book
Right.
um, while I'm alive
Yeah.
or when I'm
Yeah.
gone. So
Sure.
um, there's a lot to think about here. I want to talk about grief a little bit. Um, Grief and loss are unavoidable. I mean, they're part of our life and especially in later chapters of our life. I've been around seniors who say, I've lost all my friends, I've lost all my family, I don't have anybody anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so from that perspective, how can grief become a teacher instead of just a weight that is leans on all of us?
Yeah. So look, any emotion that we feel, the whole gamut of emotions is only supposed to last a certain while. Okay. And what I mean by that is it's like an emotion is like weather. When the storm comes through your town, your valley that you live in, or wherever you're living, it moves through.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And we humans don't come with an owner's manual to teach us that fact that our pain, our grief, even our joy doesn't last forever. It just is supposed to move through. And when we don't have the proper way to allow that to move, it stays there and it kind of becomes our reality, like in times of grief. Now, there's a lot of cultures that have a prescribed time to grieve,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm thinking about the Jewish culture where I think it's called Shiva, I
Okay.
think, where everybody kind of sits there and remembers this person who passed and they feel their feelings and they just like, we're doing this now. We're devoting our time right now to grieve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And because it takes time for grief to move through your system, it takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And everybody grieves differently and everybody, has a different experience, but it's necessary. And just because it's necessary doesn't mean it needs to last forever. Right. And
Yeah.
so grieving is like just like any other emotion, it's a process, it's supposed to move, and if it's hanging around too long, um, it means that one hasn't let this thing move through them and then come out the other side and continue with their life.
Okay.
Right. So there's an idea that when we get older and a lot of things have left,
Yeah.
that nothing else is going to happen. But that's kind of when you have to get creative if you can.
So how can it be a teacher to us? How can grief teach us?
Well, it teaches us that we love that person,
Yeah.
let's say, or that situation, because we can grieve anything, a loss of a career. We can
Mm-hmm.
grieve loss of a pet. It's a big one.
Yeah.
It shows us how much that person or situation meant to us. It also shows us how deeply we feel and how, beautiful it was to have that person or thing in our lives. And let's go do that again.
So not only is it a teacher, it can be a gift. It
It's
what
definitely a gift, right?
um
But it's not a gift that immediately feels really good.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And as I think, I lost my sister a year and a half ago and still going through the grief of that. can't
Yeah.
can't believe, it actually
Yeah.
happened and all that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have her picture on my
Mhm.
screensaver on my phone. So every time I look at my phone, I see my sister. She's
Right.
there, and
Right.
so not only have I gone through the grief, but I've gone through the uh, happiness of having had her in my life.
That's right.
So, your work often helps people move from success to significance, and I love that part of what I grab from your book. I'm part of the John Maxwell team.
Mhm.
Uh, Joined his team in 2014 as a speaker and teacher of John Maxwell's books and so forth.
Yeah.
And one of his primary teachings is significance, that success is about you and significance is what you give others.
Mhm.
And, I saw that and felt that in your book. What does significance actually look like to you? And then what does it look like, have you found in people in their 60s, 70s, and even beyond?
Mhm. So significance again to me goes all back to our individual genius, where we're actually living out the things that we individually have to express. That's what significance is to me. It's like there's a story about uh I think it was about this kind of Jewish mystic named Zusia. And he was a teacher of everybody, and he was kind of on his deathbed, and he was crying. And his students came in and said, "Why are you crying? Are you afraid that, God is going to be mad at you, that you're not more like Moses?" And he said, "No, I'm afraid that God is going to say that I wasn't more like Zusia, like myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Hmm.
haven't become myself yet."
Yeah.
Right? So to me, that's significance. Because when you truly get to that as essential self, you'll see how unique you are. Not in like, hey, look at me, I'm unique, but unique in terms of service to others and to the world.
Yeah.
Everybody has a particular important thing to express, even all the way until death.
Hmm.
Right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things that I read about you, Ben, I hope you don't mind me pointing this out, but what I read, that at the age of 49, you found yourself in the midst of a very difficult life transition. What I read was a spiritual disillusionment and loss of faith that led you to search for your identity, life meaning and purpose. Is that where you found genius? Was it
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. Ultimately, so I have been searching for life purpose and, enlightenment and all that stuff ever since I was a young teenager. And so at 49, I had come out of like a spiritual, practice where the container or the framework of my spiritual practice had become too small for me. It wasn't working like it used to, and that's a normal thing. I
Mm-hmm.
outgrew what I was doing. And so at that time, it was like, it was a very Eastern philosophy based practice that I was doing. I came back to, oh, let me look into the Western. Let me look into, the people who developed these psychological models. Let me look into the Greeks and the Romans and what their philosophies were. And that's where I came upon the idea of genius. And it's important to know that, I know that many people who are listening to this might be thinking that genius is the IQ of a person, because
Yeah,
that's
and
what it's been.
it's hard to get around that.
It is. It's very
Because it's just been driven all the
right,
time, right?
right.
I had a teacher one time that talked about ego and our understanding of what ego is, and it's not what
No,
we think it is, right?
no,
I'm
no,
sorry to interrupt you, but
no. That's
yeah.
totally fine. Yeah. So genius, in my parlance, it's the idea that back then they saw everything as a spirit. Um, so the ancient Greeks would see that, each human being was born with this genius spirit that held all of their qualities uh, safely for them as they move through life. It's kind of like a guardian angel type of thing for your uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
And so contemporarily, I see that more as like like our existential DNA, basically, is how I describe it, where you don't have to try, you have this, you just need to let it out,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, um, genius DNA in this way is like, back to the idea of being significant. By bringing that out, you are totally expressing your significance, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
significance is significant to someone else. I
Yeah.
don't know why it's that way,
Yeah.
but to be on that track where like, wow, I'm using my own gifts to help others, there's nothing better than that in my book.
Yeah. I think you're right. Ben, in your book, one of the interesting things that I found was at the end of each chapter, you wrote affirmations.
Mhm.
I'm part of and have been part of a franchise company by the name of Exit Realty Corporation. And part of the teachings of our organization is to adopt, write, and believe in affirmations. You must have that as well, or you wouldn't have put affirmations at the end of
Yeah,
each. So,
yeah.
what do affirmations mean to you? And how do you see that affirmations might actually help seniors if it becomes a practice of writing affirmations
Mhm.
daily for them?
Yeah. So I want you to think of it in this way. Let's talk specifically psychologically, just for fun. We won't even talk about any kind of spiritual idea or anything like that.
Yeah.
Psychologically, whatever we repeat to ourselves over and over and over again becomes our experience. Okay. And largely those repeated things are in the unconscious that I was talking about before. We don't really know that we're doing that. Right. And so, like, let's talk about a senior issue where someone's having trouble with mobility, you know, and they might say something like, well, I guess I'm just useless now because I can't build a house like I used to.
Right.
Right. And if you keep saying that over and over and over again, that's what your experience is going to be. So the affirmations, your brain doesn't care which one you say.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing an affirmation of what you want to feel like, what you want your life to be like, and you repeat that over again, your brain is going to manufacture that as a reality, because there is no truth to the fact of someone calling themselves useless or, you know, uh, you know, uh, invaluable, not valuable or anything like that,
Yeah.
right?
Stupid, whatever
It's
it
just
might be. Right. Yeah.
whatever it is, right? But if you don't want to feel that, then, first of all, if I was working with you, I'd be saying, okay, what are you saying about yourself? What's your story
Mm-hmm.
right now
Mm-hmm.
about this issue?
Mm-hmm.
And we would uncover it like, oh, I'm saying that I'm stupid or I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
Right? And we're like, okay, we need to change that. So let's write an affirmation or have something for you to say when that voice comes up to say differently. What would you like to believe about yourself?
Sure.
Because again, your brain doesn't know any different.
Yeah. And we're taught that it's all about the subconscious.
Mhm.
It's feeding the subconscious information. It doesn't know that it's not true. It isn't there to judge us, and so feed
Yes.
it. And if there's anyone here that isn't sure what an affirmation is, because there might be, because we certainly aren't taught, at least I wasn't in school, about the power of subconscious and how affirmations can help us. Here's an affirmation that you wrote, I think at the end of chapter 4. The affirmation is this: I am empowered to change anything in my life that restricts my ability to live as my genius self. When I align myself with my innate genius qualities, I am able to easily change any habits or patterns I have developed, regardless of how long I have been practicing them. And so, our practice was and suggested too, and even the founder of the Exit franchise, the Exit company, has a place where people can um, do their affirmations automatically digitally, and it's called Prompter. And the Prompter is a place where you can go and it will help you write your affirmations. But that sample affirmation is perfect, isn't it, for
Mhm.
helping us
Yeah,
adopt what we should believe about ourselves.
absolutely.
And yeah. So if a listener was able to reach out and grab you today and ask you, what is one meaningful question I should be living into right now? What
Mhm.
what is one?
I'll give you a very profound one. And it's the same as in that story of Zusia. It's like, have I been enough of myself? Have I become myself yet?
Yeah.
And if you haven't, let's get going. Right? So what do
Yeah.
I mean? What do I mean by becoming yourself? You probably had a career and you're not your career.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you did. You
Mm-hmm.
had a family where you were the mom, the dad, the sister, the brother, the cousin, whatever. That's one thing, but that's not necessarily you. You are defined by the uniqueness that you were born with, right? And we lose that very early on from trauma and experiences and family situation and conditioning. And so the genius way is about finding the things that we were born with to express. It's like there's a mandate when we're born of like your fulfillment is going to be in expressing these particular things. And you know that by how it feels to you. When you're living in that genius space, like my work, I literally don't get tired doing my work. It feels enjoyable, it's fun, it is rewarding. And what I've defined about my genius is I'm someone who loves to express an idea and to have conversations with people where we both grow and we leave the conversation, uplifted and inspired and hopefully a little closer to ourselves and to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that's me. What
Mm-hmm.
is it for you?
Mm-hmm. I
Right.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super. I want to take people through your website, and I'm sharing that right now. I'm not sure if you can see it, Ben, but
I
I'm
see.
sharing your website with the listeners here because I think there's a lot of good here, and you offer a lot of your advice, if it's advice, if that's the right word, a lot of your thinking to people here, and you have a number of ways that people can connect with you so they can, do personal development, spiritual coaching, career coaching for those that are still working, life transition coaching. I mean, boy, that's the world I'm in, right?
Mhm.
I've been a realtor for 34 years, and that is changing. It's not the same as it was when I
Right.
was building my company
Yeah.
and doing this.
Yeah.
Now it's on the down low where it's not that anymore. So the
Right.
services you offer are shown here,
Mhm.
and I wanted to point out also the free training that you have available to my listeners. Could you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Um,
This is just a 20-minute training video about the Genius Way, how it benefits people, how to work with me if you choose to. I have also the Genius Way process as an online course, but this gives you a whole kind of really distinct, you know, like background foundation of why it's important to experience your genius and to bring it out and express it.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so it's available to all my listeners. It's, on your website. Your website is thegeniusway.com. This isn't hard to remember. I know my website's my last name, and most people can't even pronounce it, let alone spell it, which was a mistake when I got that website. But so thegeniusway.com, and there's a lot of tools on here that Ben offers to everyone. So take advantage of it and take a look at it. Let me see if I can get this off my screen now and get back to us and hit the unshare. Am I able to do that? Stop share. Oh, let's see. I got you covered up here, so let me see if I can do that. There we go. So Ben, when I talk to people, as I'm talking to you today, I always ask, I'm guessing there's one question I didn't ask you that you wish that I would have, that you would want my listeners to know. And we didn't rehearse this, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of catching you maybe off guard, but what is the one thing I should have asked you that I didn't?
That's a good question. So I would say a question about how do we know if we're expressing our genius or not?
Okay.
Okay. And the answer to that is it's all how it feels.
Mm,
It's how it feels. So the ability to kind of self-reflect and to track what does it feel like when I do this thing? When I'm fishing or when I'm talking to somebody or whether I mean, it could be anything, but I'll tell you what the feeling is. When I track it in working with people, I'll notice when they're on their genius, they'll sit up or a little bit more straight. Their eyes become a little bit more open. They'll lean in and they'll
hmm
start speaking with authority and interest, even if they were just talking to me about how depressed they are. You can see this thing come alive, and it's a feeling like I know this. I don't know how I know it, but I care about this, and this is important to me, and I'd like you to know how important that is, right? So it's that feeling that you kind of catch, and once you catch that, your effort should be around, okay, how do I express this in the world? How do I build myself a way to be in this expressive place because it feels so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, listen, Ben, I hope people grab your book. I think it'll be a great experience for them as it was for me. And you actually have two books, which you
Yeah.
mentioned. So they're both on Amazon, easy to find. And I just want to take a minute just to thank you for being here. I learned a lot by reading your book and talking to you. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Ben. Have a
Great
great day.
speaking.
Thank you to my senior to senior listeners. Hope to see you again. And if you like this on YouTube or anywhere else, please like it. Please subscribe. And I hope I see you again on the next Senior to Seniors podcast. Have a great day.